Good evening. Hello. Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's session. Um, if you hear something, any sound that is disturbing, please let me know so that I can switch this thing off. But if it's not disturbing, then it means we will continue. So, like I said, in tonight's session, we are going to look at chapter 1 and chapter 2, but they are not that difficult, and they are actually boring. So it means that we will be focusing mainly on calculations and maybe on some theoretical aspects that seem to be a little bit tricky to you. So we'll be looking at such things. But before that, I am going to take you through a recap of what we did yesterday, meaning that I will be explaining the important things you need to know with regard to not hypothesis test, but regression analysis. Are you able to hear me, or the sound of this is disturbing?
No sound detected, and you are very loud and
Let me increase the volume. I can't hear you. Let me do this. Yes, what were you saying?
clear. There's no sound. It's
Oh,
only you, and you are loud and clear.
okay. Thank you very much. Then we are continuing. So I'm taking you through the revision of, I mean to say, yeah, the revision of regression analysis. So you need to have your pen or pencil and the calculator. So we are going to look at another example in today's session, and then I'm going to introduce you to the formulae that you need to know, because I understand others could not attend last night's session. So this is your opportunity to grab what you have missed in the previous session. And if you have questions, feel free to ask me. And if you, I can see it's like I'm the only mentor present here. So yes, I'm the only one. So if there are messages in the chat room or via WhatsApp, please make sure you enable your mic, and then you let me know what is happening in the group, because there might be other people who want to join the session, and then they might need to be approved, or their request might need to be approved, and then I won't see it since I will be using a phone from now on. So I am making myself a host that other side, so I won't be able to see people who want to join the session. So are you sure you are unable to hear this machine?
Okay.
So there's no other sound that is disturbing you.
Yes.
Okay. I want to write all the formula you need to know in this chapter. So this is the first formula. That is the first formula you need to know. And it is what we call the simple linear regression equation. So in the exam, they will ask you to compute or to calculate or to derive, let's not say to derive, the simple linear regression equation. Or they might say compute a least square regression analysis equation. So meaning that they will be looking for this, where y hat represents the estimated output. Let me not say the estimated output, but the estimated, yeah, it can be output, but it's dependent variable. And then your B naught is the y-intercept. And then your B1 is the slope. And then your X is the dependent variable. I mean to say the independent variable. So if you can check this equation, you will see that it's similar to this one of y equals mx plus c. This is a linear equation. You know about it because you have learned about it in high school and also in the first semester mathematics, STAA. No, it was SSTA, if not mistaken. Are we together? So where your M was denoting the slope of your line or the slope of the curve, and then your C was the y-intercept. So your M is the same as the B1 here. And then your C is the same as your B naught. That's why we are saying B naught, since it's the same as this C, it denotes the y-intercept, because C in this equation denotes the y-intercept. And then your M is the gradient or the slope of that line. So if the value, the sign of M is negative, it shows you a negative slope or a negative gradient. And by a negative gradient, we mean to say it is a decreasing curve. And then if the sign here is negative, is positive, it means that it is an increasing curve. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Very, very well.
Okay. Uh, I want to charge this PC so that it doesn't go off while I'm busy talking here. Okay. So, like I said, you do not have to forget these things. So when they say compute a least square regression equation, they will be looking for this. Or it depends on their mood. It will depend on their mood. They might not say compute a simple linear regression. I mean, say they might not say compute a least square regression analysis. They might say a simple linear regression analysis. Just know that these two are used interchangeably, so they are the same. And then the other important thing you need to know is about the variables. So the x is the independent variable. The independent variable is the one that is used to estimate or to assume or to explain other variables in the experiment. And then the other name for independent variable is what? Is predictor variable. And then the other one is exogenous variable. So make sure you don't forget these terminologies, because they will ask you, they will give you a statement, they will give you the data, and then they ask you to state the variables in that particular experiment. So, or they might say, what is the exogenous variable in this experiment? So by exogenous, they will be referring to the independent variable, which is also referred to as the predictor variable, and it's the x value. So it's called the predictor variable because it's used to predict other variables in the experiment. Remember in high school, when you were having this in grade 9, I remember the x values and the y's, and then they were giving you an equation like this. They say is 2x plus 3. And then they say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. And then they say calculate the values of y. You are given this equation. There is no way you can calculate the value of y without the value of x, meaning that the value of x is the one that is used to predict the value of y. Hence, x is called the predictor variable, because we must have the value of x before we can actually have the value of y. So the value of x is referred to as the predictor variable or the independent variable. I also gave an example of those alphabets, letters of alphabets, to say when you call them, when you were singing in preschool, you were saying A, B, C, D, blah, 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 blah. And then when you reach X, Y, Z, before you can call Y, you had to call X. So it means that Y depends on X even when you sing that song, because you cannot call Y before you call X. X comes before Y. Therefore, X becomes the independent variable. And then I also gave another example using, you are in a room now. I used the wall and the floor. So we said your floor, because it's on a horizontal plane, it was regarded to as an independent variable, because for us to end up having a wall standing upright like that, the one you are looking at now, we must first have the floor. Without the floor, we cannot have the wall. Meaning that when you draw your graph as well, the line, the horizontal line, represents the x values, and the x values are the predictor variables, or the independent variables, or the exogenous variables.
Dr. Mohale,
Yes.
sorry for disturbing you. Someone is asking for letting in, something like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Keep on checking the messages. Normally, I don't check the messages when I'm in a session. You would remember that even in the contact lesson, I never went through my cell phone. Even if it rings, I don't respond to the call. So same rule applies here. Whenever a person sends the message, I don't respond. So I will be focusing on what I'm presenting here. I don't want to be disturbed. So do you understand up to so far? So I don't want to spend most of the time explaining this because I have explained last night. So all I need to do is to introduce you to the formula. So this one is called the dependent variable. And then if it's not the dependent, it is the response variable, or you can say it is the endogenous variable. So make sure you familiarize yourselves with these terminologies. So when the lecturer uses independent, independent goes hand in hand with dependent. Predictor goes hand in hand with response. And then exogenous goes hand in hand with endogenous. So these are variables. So why is y referred to as a response variable? A response variable or a dependent variable is the variable that we wish to explain. So it is the variable that we wish to assume, the variable that we wish to predict. Meaning that the reason it's referred to as a response variable is because it responds to the changes in x. So if the value of x changes, the value of y will also change. Therefore, y responds to the change in the predictor variable. Hence, it's referred to as a response variable. So I hope you understand that. And then we also spoke about the important concept, which is homoscedasticity. Make sure you don't forget that. Homoscedasticity, we said it refers to, homo means the same, and then scedasticity refers to scedasticity. And then your skida here, and then sticity here from elasticity. So homoscedasticity talks about a situation whereby we have the same or the constant variance of the variables. So when you talk about homoscedasticity, we are talking about, or it's just an economic term, not an economic term, but a statistical term that is used to refer to the constant variance, the constant sigma squared, meaning that our sigma squared does not change across all variables in the experiment. And that terminology, or that thing, is referred to as homoscedasticity. Make sure you don't forget. We also have this formula. Isn't it that I said we have the equation of the simple linear regression, which is this? So you will need to know the formula for calculating B naught. B naught is calculated by y bar minus B1 x bar. Make sure you don't forget this, where your y bar is the mean of outcomes. So it's the sum of y over n, whereas your x bar is the sum of x values over n. And then, but you are not going to calculate using these formulas. You are just going to use your calculator to calculate all those things. So what about the B1? So you also need to know the formula for calculating your B1. So B1 is calculated by SSXY over SSXX. make sure you are writing this formula down. So, like I said, it's not easy for you to calculate this because there are formulas inside this formula. So you have the formula for calculating B0, you have the formula for calculating B1. And then inside the formula for calculating B1, you have another formula for calculating Y bar, you have the formula for calculating B1, you have the formula for calculating X bar. And then in the formula for calculating B1, you have the formula for calculating SSXY, and you also have the formula for calculating SSXX. And those formulae are very simple and straightforward. So are we together up to so far? Let me see. It's like I saw the question. Okay, someone wants to join even now. Okay, thank you. Like I said, we have the formula for calculating all this. And then what is the formula for calculating SSXY? SSXY equals, so I said SS means sum of squares or square sums. SS, sum of squares. So meaning that we expect to see sigma because they are saying is the sum. So the formula for calculating SSXY is the sum of, so you multiply X by Y, you will get XY, and then you subtract, you separate them now, the sum of X multiplied by the sum of Y, you divide by N. So I hope you are writing that formula down. And then SSXX, you do the same. The sum means this. X times X, you get X squared minus, and then the sum of X in bracket, you square it, you divide by N. So you have a minus here. Are we together? So those are the formulae. And then what else do you need to know? Make sure you don't confuse the sum of X squared with the sum of X in bracket all squared. They are not the same. So they are there on your calculator. So an example of differentiating between those might be, let's say you have X1. Let's say your X1 is 1, your X2 is 2, and then that one is 3. So the sum of X squared will be given by, it means that you do what? You sum each value of X. You square each value of X, and then you will get this. But then the sum of X all squared means that you add all these values of X, 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then you square the answer. So the answer for this one and for this one will not be the same. Therefore, the sum of X squared is not and can never be the same as the sum of X all squared. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so these things are there in the calculator. So the other formula you need to know, there are only 2 formulas remaining. It's for the coefficient of correlation. The coefficient of correlation you also need to know and also know how to define it. When we talk about the correlation of coefficient, we talk about the value that measures the strength and the direction of a linear relationship between the dependent and the independent variable. meaning that the value of R measures the strength of the relationship between the X values and the Y values. We want to check whether there is a strong relationship or there is a weak relationship between the independent and the dependent variables. So we use the value of R to measure that strength. And the formula for calculating this coefficient of correlation is denoted by small letter r. So it's given by n multiplied by the sum of xy minus the sum of x times the sum of y. You will get all these sums from your calculator. You divide by the square root of n into the sum of x squared minus the sum of x in bracket all squared. Make sure you are writing this formula down. And then multiplied by the square root of n, the sum of y squared minus the sum of y in bracket all squared. So this is the formula for calculating the correlation coefficient. You will be asked in the exam to calculate the correlation coefficient, or they will say the coefficient of correlation, and then you know it is the statistical value that is used to measure the strength of the relationship and the direction of the linear x values and the y values. So that is the formula. And then we have another one. Are you done writing the formula? Please make sure you respond, and then you can also indicate in the chat room so that I can quickly move on. Are you done writing the formula?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's the correlation coefficient. Now we are talking about another coefficient, so which is what we call coefficient of determination. Make sure you don't confuse them. Coefficient of determination is not the same as coefficient of correlation. Correlation, if you check this one, correlation has relation, meaning that it looks at the relationship because of the word relation. Whereas this one, the coefficient of determination, it determines something. So it is the value that is used to determine something, and it is denoted by capital letter R all squared. And its formula is the coefficient of correlation squared. So meaning that for you to get the coefficient of determination, you will need to square this formula. If you square this formula, you will get R squared, which is the coefficient of determination. So that is why we are saying coefficient of determination is denoted by capital letter R squared, and it's equal to the R, small letter r squared, and small letter r represents the coefficient of correlation. Are we together? And then one might ask, now that we know that the coefficient of correlation talks about or measures the strength of the relationship between the x values and the y values, what about the coefficient of determination? The coefficient of determination is just the statistical value that is used to measure, or let me just say, it is the percentage. It is the percentage of total variation in the independent, okay, not the independent, in the dependent variable that is explained by the variation in the dependent variable. That is the definition of the coefficient of determination. It is the percentage of the total variation in the dependent variable that is explained by the variation in the dependent variable. So you will need to interpret. Remember, after calculating each value, you need to make interpretation. And then when you interpret R, remember your R is the coefficient of determination, and your R will always be between -1 and +1, both inclusive. So if the value of R is positive, it tells you that there is a positive relationship. It shows that there is a positive relationship between X and Y. And I told you that when we talk about a positive relationship, we talk about a situation whereby if the value of X increases, the value of Y will also increase. That is a positive relationship because they agree with one another. The change in Y results in the change the change in X results in the change in Y in the same direction. So there is a direct proportional relationship between the variables if your R is positive. Do you understand what I mean by this? So if your R is negative, it means there is a negative relationship between X and Y. So a negative relationship means that if the value of X increases, the value of Y decreases. So it means that they are antagonistic, or they move in opposite direction. So they oppose one another. So, and I am going to ask you this question. I said in the previous session that today I'm going to ask you a question. So you all have boyfriends and girlfriends. This one I know. So it's an indispensable truth. Let me see who is in the session. Willie, since you are the one responding, you are in a relationship. So are you in a positive relationship or in a negative relationship?
A very positive relationship.
Why are you saying you are in a positive relationship?
Because the feeling is mutual.
Okay, because the feeling is mutual. Okay, statistically, what you are saying is that when you say you are in a positive relationship, you are trying to say, when you say I am going to the bash today, your girlfriend will also say, yes, I'm going with you to the bash, meaning that you agree on common things. So when you say I'm not eating tonight, your girlfriend also say, I am also not eating. So if you say, let's not eat this, so your girlfriend also says, yes, we are not doing this. So that is a positive relationship, right? But then a negative relationship, give that one your girlfriend or your boyfriend disrespect you, as people used to say. Meaning that when you say, don't go to the bash, she goes to the bash or he goes to the bash. So meaning that you always oppose one another. That is a negative relationship. and I gave you a task last night to say, you are going back to square one. You analyze your relationship with your partner. You check whether the relationship is positive or is negative. So if you say, make sure you text me every night, you send me a good night text every night before you sleep, or you call me every night before you sleep, and the person does not call you, that is a negative relationship and it's toxic. So it's given by R, that is equal to negative. So the answer will be negative. The value of R will be negative, and it tells us that the relationship between those variables is negative. But if the relationship is positive, they agree with one another. Do you guys understand? So remember, you are going to interpret all your findings. Are we together? So this is what you need to know again when it comes to the interpretation of the value of R, small letter r. So we said if R is greater than 0.8, it is what? It is a strong relationship. If R is less than 0.5, is a weak relationship. So make sure you also write this down, because it will come in the multiple choice. They will give you the information and then they calculate the values of R for you. And then they say, or they give you the table and then the information, they say calculate all this. You calculate all those values, and then at the end they say, what is the relationship between the variables? So they give you various options there. So you need to know. So if R is between 0.8 and 0.5, both inclusive, it means there is a moderate relationship. So that's what you need to know. Remember, in the first scenario here, 0.8 is not included, meaning that we are saying if the value of R is greater than 0.8, it might be 0.9 or 1. It means that the relationship is very strong. So here, in the second scenario, 0.5 is also not included because there's no equal sign here. So if it's less than 0.5, it means that the relationship is weak. So you are going to interpret. And then if it's between 0.5 and 0.8, both inclusive, it means the relationship is moderate. So meaning that when you do your interpretations, you are going to combine positive, negative with these three. So let's say, for instance, you calculate the value of R and you get 0.6, or let me say 0.9. When you get 0.9, is it a positive or a negative relationship? It's a positive relationship because the value of R is positive, right? Now you further tell us, is it a strong positive relationship or a weak positive or a moderate positive? You check. The value of R is greater than 0.8. Therefore, it is a strong positive relationship. But if your R is now equals to 0.2, and it's positive, meaning that there is a positive relationship, and then it's a weak positive relationship because the value of R is less than 0.5. But if your R is now equals to negative 0.5, or let's say negative 0.8 or negative 0.5, so the relationship is negative because R is negative. And then you will say we have is negative, but then it is what? It is moderate because it is between 0.5 and 0.8, both inclusive. Therefore, we have a moderate negative relationship. So that's how you interpret the value of R. Do you understand? Can we now go to the calculation? Are you guys with me?
Yeah, we're with you.
Okay, thank you. Now we are going to look at an example. I hope you have the formula with you. All the formula I have introduced you to are very important. We are going to use them. So we are only going to look at one example and then we calculate everything. So the interpretation of the R squared, which is the coefficient of determination and is given by R squared. So let's say you get 0.7629. Make sure you always multiply that answer by 100 because we need a percentage. With this one, you make your interpretations using the percentages. R squared, which is the coefficient of determination, is interpreted using a percentage because its definition says it is the percentage in the percentage in the total variation in the dependent variable that is explained by the variation in the independent variable. So meaning that if you multiply this by 100, you will get 76.29. So its interpretation will be 76.29% of the total variation in the dependent variable is explained by the variation in the independent variable. So you interpret this looking at its definition. Did I write that definition? It's here. So we got 76.29%. So you will say 76.29% of the total variation in the dependent variable is explained by the variation in the independent variable. That will be the interpretation of the coefficient of determination. So we are going to calculate it. After calculating everything, you need to make sure that you interpret your findings. Same applies to your B0 and your B1. They should be interpreted. You don't calculate and leave things as they are. You calculate and interpret your findings. So we are going to look at the calculations now. Any question? Do you guys have a question? Why is this session not kicking us out tonight? Because I'm not using that plan that should be paid for monthly. Which one was I using? I was using this. So tonight I'm gonna release you early because we don't have a lot of things to do. But we are going to look at chapter number 1 and number 2, only the important things after the revision of regression analysis. Where is that question paper? I want to take a picture. So it's the November 2018 question paper. You have it with you. So I want to extract a question from this question paper so that we can calculate everything they say we must calculate. No, some of the things are cut here. Let me take another picture. Why is it doing like this? Make sure you have the calculators with you. Yeah. Some of the questions are cut, but it's fine. I will show you the question paper. You are all able to see the question, right?
Yes.
Thank you. In conducting a simple linear regression model for the number of customers and the area of the advertising sign in square meters used to attract customers, the following information was given. Table 1 gives data for 6 produce stands. So that table shows the number of customers and the advertising sign, right? So what you need to know, as I used to say, is that in the test or in the exam that you are going to write, they will never identify the variables for you. And they might ask you, what is the independent variable in this experiment? What is the response variable in this experiment? What is the exogenous variable in this experiment? What is the endogenous variable? What is the response variable? What is the predictor variable? All those things. They might ask you that. So you need to know how to identify them on your own. They won't tell you that this is the value of, these are the values of X, these are the values of Y. So you need to identify them on your own. So now, by looking at that information that is given to us there, which one do you think is independent? Between the area of advertising sign and the number of customers, which one do you think is independent? Yes?
The area of advertising sign.
The area of advertising sign is independent variable. Therefore, what is the predictor variable in this experiment?
It's the area of advertising sign.
okay, is the area of the advertising side. What is the exogenous variable in this experiment?
The area of advertising sign.
Good. So it means that I was just trying to play around the words, meaning that you understood what I said before. Exogenous is the same as independent, and it's the same as predictor variable. So in the test, they might use any of these words just to confuse you. So make sure you familiarize yourselves with those. So the reason we are saying area of advertising sign is an independent variable is because you are told on this statement that the advertising sign is used to attract customers, meaning that the advertising sign is the one that has an effect on the number of customers. So the number of customers depend on the area of advertising sign. So if the number of customers depend on the advertising sign, it means that the number of customers are dependent, and then the area of advertising sign are independent because they predict the number of customers. So that is why we are saying the area of advertising sign is independent, and then this one is dependent. And never cram these things. I will always repeat this. It's not always the case that the column on the left will always depict the values of X. As you have seen in the previous session, sometimes the values of Y are here and then the values of X are here. So you don't need to cram this. You need to understand. So that is it. Now, I don't have a calculator with me tonight. I don't know how we are going to work these things out. But now that you have the calculators with you, you will just give me the answers. So you take your calculator now. You are going to punch all this because the question here says compute the least square regression equation, 5 marks. So it's 5 marks. So meaning that I told you that if they say compute the least square regression equation, they need this equation. And you know that this equation has B naught, and B naught has its own formula. B1 has its own formula, and then X does not have its own formula. So we need to end up having this equation. So our calculator can give us that equation. So what you are going to do, make sure all of you are punching this information in the calculator because I will ask you to give me the answer. I will pick you randomly. So if you are unable to enable your mic, you can type the answer in the chat room. So we want to do this. So what you are going to do here is to go to your scientific calculator. You press mode. After pressing mode, you press option 2, it's stat. Then if I make a mistake, please make sure you correct me because my calculator is very far from me today. So we are gonna have challenges, but you will assist me since you have your own calculators that side. So I said you press mode and then you press option 2, which is stat. Then after that, you go to option 2 again, which is A plus BX. This is regression analysis. And then a table will appear on your screen with the X column and the Y column, and other calculators will also have the frequency column. So those that do not have the frequency column, do not mind them because the frequency will be the same. It's 1 throughout all the values. So are we together there? Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. Then now that the table is appearing on your screen, make sure you punch the X values in the column of X values. If you take these values to the column of Y values on your calculator, and then you also swap this around, your answers will be wrong. Your equation will be wrong, your estimations will be wrong, your betas will be wrong, and everything will be wrong. So you will get 0 at the end. So make sure, that is why it's very important for you to identify the dependent and the independent variables, because failure to identify those will result in a decimal failure. So you are going to punch those values. You start with 0.37 equals to 0.3 equals to 0.3 equals to until 0.28. Then you press equals to. And then you go to the second column, the column of what? Of Y's. So you punch 240 equals to 150 equals to. So I'm giving you 2 minutes to punch those values. According to my laptop, it's 1:05. So by 1:07, you should all be done with punching the information into your calculators. So those who do not understand, it's your time to ask questions before we continue. I'm sorry for disturbing. I'm checking if those who left the session are not in need of joining. It's 7:00. You are done, isn't it? It's 7:00. So, like I said, the first question says we are computing the simple linear regression equation, or the least squares regression equation. So it's this equation here. Where is that? My this one, yes. So for you to get this, you need to have your B0 and your B1. So we know that B0 is equal to Y bar minus B1 X bar, whereas B1 is SSXY over SSXX. And you have the formulas for SSXXY and SSXX. So there's no way you can calculate B0 first without calculating B1, because when you calculate B0, you will need to have B1. So you are supposed to start by calculating B1 always. So let's calculate B1. So we start by calculating SSXY. I said it's given by X times Y is the sum of what? Of XY minus, and then you separate the sum of X with the sum of Y. You divide by the value of N. So you will get all these values on your calculator. So make sure you correct me if I make a mistake. So for you to get the sum of XY, okay, are you done? You are done punching your information in the calculator. So you press AC, which is one of those orange or yellow buttons on your calculator, You either press AC or you press power button, any, and then 0 must appear on your screen, and stat should also appear on your screen on top there to show that you have statistical values punched into your calculator. So for us to get the sum of XY, you go to your calculator, right? You press shift, you press 1, and then you press 5 is regression. If I make a mistake, please make sure you correct me. If what I'm saying is not what you see on the screen, please make sure you inform me. You press shift, you press 1, you press 5. 5 is regression. It's written reg or regr. I don't know, but it's reg or regr. And then you are going to find, what are we looking for, Gan? Okay. No, before we go there, let's start here. Isn't it that I told you that your calculator can give us the equation, but your calculator has y equals a plus bx. So this equation is the same as this one. So a on your calculator represents b naught, and then b on your calculator is the b1. Therefore, we go to the calculator now. We need to see the equation we should expect to have at the end. So you go to your calculator, you press shift, you press 1, you press 5. Then after pressing 5, you will see the value of A, the value of B, the value of R. I don't know the other value or the value of what, but the 3 are there. The value of A, the value of B, and the value of R, small letter R, are there on your calculator. So do you see them?
Yes.
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 So now give me the value. You press, you give me the value of A. Remember I said A is the same as B naught. So you press option 1 and then equal sign. You give me the answer. What is the answer?
Negative 200.
Negative 200.
0.30, yeah, 0.3076923.
Okay, it's 3077, right? Let's round it to 4 decimal places.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then plus, we go back, you press shift, we need B1 now. You press shift, you press 1, you press 5, and then you go to option 2, which is B, and then you get the answer. What is the answer?
1,224, 1,224.
Yes?
Not 1,024. It's 1,224.
What? 1,224?
358,974.
Meaning that we have 3590 when we round it to 4 decimal places and then X. So this is the equation we expect to get at the end. So you got all these values from your calculator. So let's go and calculate. So we are calculating SSXY. We want to find B1. The sum of XY. So you press shift, you press 1, and then you go to option 3. Option 3 is written sum. So we need the sum. So you see the sum of XY. So sum of XY is on option 5, if not mistaken. On option 5. Do you see it? And then you press equal sign. What is the answer?
310.15.
0.15. Thank you. Minus. Now we need the sum of x. You press shift, you press 1, you go to sum again, which is option 3. And then the sum of x is option number 2. What is the answer? If it's not option number 2, but you can still see it on your calculator, you need the sum of x. What is the answer? Those who are unable to talk, you can type in the chat room. Okay, it's 1.
It's 1.8.
Thank you. And then multiply by the sum of y. You follow the same procedure. You press shift, you press 1, you press 3. The sum of y is option number 4. If it's not option number 4, but you can still see it on your calculator, whatever option it is, as long as you can see it on your calculator, you punch that option and then you press equal sign, you get the answer. What is the answer?
1002.
Divided by, what is the value of n? For you to get the value of n, you can go to this data again. You count these values, this observation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you were told that the value of n is 6. So the value of n is 6. But if you are lazy to do that, the calculator can still tell you. You press shift, you press 1, and then you press 4. If not mistaken, 4 is var, variation. And then you will see the value of n on option number 1. And then you press option number 1, you press equal sign, and then it will tell you that the value of n is 6. Is that what you see on your calculator?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's equal to. So here you must be very careful with calculations. I can see someone has left, so I had to check in the chat room if the person wanted to join. So you need to be very careful here. All of you, you can test this. What happens when you press the division sign? I mean to say the fractional part, the fractional button there, that button that looks like this on your calculator. What do you see when you press it?
It gives this funny sign here.
This sign, right? Meaning that you can calculate those values separately. You need to be very wise, because if you make a mistake here, your answers will be wrong. And when you punch the information in the calculator as well, you need to make sure that you are careful with the answers you punch into the calculator, because once you miss the answer, once you miss a value, then everything will be affected. So what we are going to do is to start by finding the product of this one. You say 1.8, you multiply by 1002. And then you say equals to, you get the answer, right? From there, you divide that answer by 6. And then you press equal sign. Then you have solved this problem, right? Now you press the AC button or the power button. Am I too fast or you are with me? Okay. I said you say 1.8 times 1002, you get the answer. So that answer you divide by 6, you get the answer. So that answer, you are going to press AC or the power button so that it takes you back to the normal screen. Not the normal screen, the screen with a 0 only. So you are going to punch this value. 310 minus 1.5 and then 310.15 minus, and then you punch AC, I mean to say ANS on your calculator, which is a button that is before the equal sign. And then you get the answer. What is the answer?
$9.55.
9.55 is the answer I got from you. So it will tell us if the answers are wrong, because at the end we should get the same value as the one from the calculator. Now we have calculated, remember this 9.55 is not B1, it's the first part on top there. So now let's calculate this part. SSXX is given by the sum of x squared minus the sum of x all squared divided by the value of n. You go to the calculator, you press shift, you press 1, you press 3, and then the sum of x squared is option number 1, and then you give me the answer. What is the answer?
$0.5478.
Are you sure?
A.
Let me
Can you please
check.
repeat the steps?
Okay, I will explain. Yeah, you might be right. Might be right. I see why that is the case. Okay, you are saying I must repeat.
Yeah, the steps.
I said we need the sum of x squared, right? So you press shift, you press 1, you press 3, because 3 is sum, and because of this sign here, we need the sum. And then because we need the sum of x squared, which is on option number 1, you press option number 1 and then equal sign. And then you said the answer is
$0.5478.
minus the sum of y has to be 1.8. You square it. You can also check, because we got it before here when we were calculating that one. So you go to the calculator, you press shift, you press 1, you press 3, and then you go to the sum of x, which is option number 2. You will get, you press equal sign, you get 1.8, and then you square that 1.8 divided by the value of n is 6. And then from there you calculate 1.8, you start with this one because the fraction cannot work on your calculator because there is an information that is stored in the calculator. So 1.8 to the power 2, you get the answer. From there, you take that answer, you divide by 6, you get the answer. And then now you cancel. You press AC or you press the power button, and then you are going to punch this. 0.5478 minus, you press the ans button, which is before the equal sign button on your calculator. What is the answer?
$0.0078.
0.0078. So now we have the SSXX and the SSXY. So we can punch them. I mean, so we can substitute them here. meaning that B1 is equal to SSXY over SSXX equals, what is the SSXX? We got 9.55. So it's 9.55 divided by SSXX is 0.0078. 0.0078. And then you press this on your calculator, you give me the answer. 9.55 divided by 0.0078. What is the answer?
1,224,3590.
You see, it's the same as this one, meaning our answer is correct. Are we together? So you now go to B1. Do you understand up to so far? Am I not leaving you behind? Okay. Now let's calculate B naught. B naught is equal to Y bar minus, never make a mistake with this sign. This one will always be minus. It will not change. B1 X bar. This is Y, remember, Y bar. So you go to the calculator again. All these values are there on your calculator. So you press shift, you press 1, you press 4, which is var, and then you go to an option, Yarobale Y bar. I don't know whether that option is 4 or 5, but it's there on your calculator. What is your Y bar? You press shift, you press 1, you press 4, which is var, measures of variation, and then you check the options. Amongst those options, you will have the Y bar, you will also have the X bar. So I see 167 as the answer. Minus, we have calculated our B1. So this is the B1 that we got. 1224. Point this. You multiply by your X bar. You do the same. You press shift, you press 1, you press 4, and then you go to an option of X bar. And then you press equal sign. What is the answer? .3. Thank you. And then now you can punch this on your calculator the way they are, and then you give us the answer. But you should be careful here. Isn't it that this answer has been rounded off to 4 decimal places? So make sure you don't use the answers that are rounded off. Yes, when you write it here, you can write it in rounded off format. But when you calculate, make sure you use it as raw as it is. Now, how can you get this answer back in its raw form? So you go back to your calculator, you press shift, you press 1, you press option 5, and then Kana B1 is what? B1 is B. So you go to option 2 of B, and then you press equal sign. You will get 1224.358 something, right? So that is the answer in a raw form. And then from there, you will cancel. You press AC or you press the power button. And then you punch this 167 minus, and then you are not going to punch this value. You will press ans. Ans is the answer. The ans button, which is before the equal sign. And then you open the bracket. You punch 0.3, you close your bracket, and then you press equal sign. What is the answer? Your values will be very accurate. Negative 200.3007. Thank you. Let's check if it's the same as what we got. This is what we got before from the calculator before we even embarked on the calculation. So it means that our answer is correct. So you always use your calculator to confirm your answers. So did you understand? Okay. From there, you have your equation, but then it's not complete. The way it is not complete. Now what do we have as the equation? We have negative 200.3077 plus 1224 x. So if you leave your answer like that, it will be wrong. If you leave your answer like that, it will be wrong. So what you are supposed to do, is to substitute. You go back to your question paper. Where you see X, you will write advertising area or area of advertising. And then where you see Y, you will write number of customers. So you do likewise. We said where you see Y, you still have your cap. And then your Y is what? Is the number of customers equals negative 200.3077 plus 1224.3590. Where you see X, I said you write what? You write the advertising sign or area of advertising sign. Advertising sign or area of advertising sign. Then that will be your equation. That's what they want from you. Are we together? And then this is an estimate of the number of customers. So it's the predicted number of customers. So this is the formula for estimating the number of customers, provided you are given the area of advertising sign. So let's say, for instance, they say, suppose the area of advertising sign is 1.3. Estimate the number of customers. What are you going to do? Suppose an area of advertising sign is 1.3. What will be, or estimate the number of customers? What do you think one is supposed to do here? Anoni, what can we do? You substitute 1.3 on X. Good. So you go to this general formula, and then you are given the area of advertising sign. So wherever you see that area of advertising sign, you put 1.8. So at the end, you will have negative 200.3077 plus 1224.3590 multiplied by 1.8. And then you punch your calculator, you get the answer. So that will be the estimated number of customers if the area of advertising sign is 1.8. And then that was very simple. Did you understand? Because we are not going to do another example of regression analysis. So all the examples you have seen in the previous question papers will follow the same procedure we have followed here. So I'm afraid I don't want to confuse you with the interpretations of those there, because I said B0 and B1 should be interpreted, but let me interpret them. So B0, when we interpret B0, remember B0 is the y-intercept. B0 is the y-intercept. And how do you calculate the y-intercept? Y-intercept is calculated by letting x to be 0. Meaning that the interpretation of B0 is if the value of x, which in this case is the area of advertising sign, if the area of advertising sign is 0, then the estimated number of customers will be, and then you write that value of B0, the answer that you got as your B0. So I will repeat, if the area of advertising sign is 0, or if x equals 0, then the estimated number of customers is, you write the answer you got when you were calculating B0, which is what? Which is negative 200.3077. That will be the number of customers. So when we interpret B1, this 0 here on B0 shows you the value of x. Same here, this is the value of x. So they are telling you that, remember we said B1 is the slope. This B1 is the slope. And because of positive sign here, we are saying we have an increase. So you will say for every incremental or additional unit of, or you can say one area of advertising sign, the estimated number of customers will increase because of this positive sign here, will increase with a factor of this value, which is your B1. For every incremental or additional unit of advertising sign, the estimated number of customers will increase because of the positive sign with a factor of 1224.3590. Why are we saying increase? Because this slope will affect the value of x. And then they will also, the value of x, remember, affects the value of y or y hat. So that's the interpretation. You need to interpret everything you have calculated. So we are done with that. Now let's calculate. Let's respond to the second question. The second question, it's not visible. They are saying calculate and interpret coefficient of determination, 4 marks. Coefficient of determination. What do they want us to calculate? Do they want us to calculate r squared or small letter r? Which one are we supposed to calculate? The coefficient of determination.
Capital R squared.
Good. It's capital R squared. So they want us to calculate capital R squared, and you know the formula. So it's given by R squared equals n, the sum of xy, minus the sum of x times the sum of y, divided by the square root of n, the sum of x squared, minus the sum of x in brackets all squared, and then you multiply by the square root of n, the sum of y squared, minus the sum of y in bracket all squared, and then you square it. But you can also go to the calculator, right? So let's go to the calculator. You press shift, you press 1, you press 5, which is regression. And then you go to, I don't know what option is that, but the value of R. You give me the value of R. What is the value of R? What is the value of R according to the calculator?
0.8936.
0.8936. Then from there you can square.
No,
Yes.
337. If you round it off, it's 37.
Okay, thank you.
0.8937.
Yes. So what you can do now is to press the navigation button, the navigation button, the left button there, and then it will lead you to R. So something will pop up, something like a line will pop up before R, right? And then you introduce the square there. Do you get what I'm saying? Or you can even start from scratch. You press shift, you press 1, you press 3, and then you press an option, yeah, R, yeah, small letter R. Then before you press equal sign, you square that value, you square that R, and then you press equal sign. What is the answer? What is R squared?
0.7987.
So meaning that after calculating, after applying this formula, we must get this answer. If not, then something is wrong. So let's calculate. R squared equals. But then is there no way I can take this up? let's substitute. The value of n is what? Is 6. The value of xy, shift 1, 3, and then you press option 5. You give us the answer. We got the sum of xy before. $310.15 minus the sum of x, we got 1.8 multiplied by the sum of y, shift 1, 3, and then the sum of y is on option 4. What was the answer? We also got this. It was 1002. Divide by the square root of n is 6. The sum of x squared, we also calculated it somewhere. The sum of x squared is shift 1, 3, 1. We got 0.5478. 0.5478. We subtract. What do we subtract? We subtract the sum of x, which is 1.8, and then we square it. And then we are going to multiply by 6. What is the sum of y squared? Did we even calculate it? No, this one we did not calculate. You press shift, you press 1, shift 1, and 3, and then the sum of y, I don't know if it's option 4 or what. No, it's option 3, because the sum of x is x squared is option 1. What is the answer?
One eight one nine four 974.
Thank you. Minus the sum of y, we got the sum of y, which is 1002, and then we square it, and then we need the answer here. But we are calculating r squared. Let's not forget to square this here. I don't have space here. You square it. You square. So even here, you are supposed to square. So what you are going to do here is that, isn't it that your calculator does not have a fraction? So what you can do is to start by solving this upper part. What is, okay, what is the answer on top? 6, you punch it as it is with the bracket on. So 6 times 310.15 minus 1.8 times 1002. What is the answer on top?
57.3.
57.3. Thank you. Divided by, you go to the bottom. At the bottom, what you are going to do is to open a bracket. You open a bracket on your calculator, and then you press square root. And then you press 6, you open a bracket, 0.5478, you close a bracket, minus 1.8 squared, and then you do what? No, let's start afresh. You open two brackets, and then you press the square root, and then you press 6, you open the bracket, 0.578, close the bracket, minus 1.8, close the bracket, you introduce the square. And then you press the navigation button, the one on the right-hand side, right? So that you can at least have a space. Because if you don't press that button, if you don't navigate to the right, it means that your multiplication sign will be inside the square root, and we don't want the multiplication sign to be inside the square root. We want it to be outside the square root. And then you close the bracket, you multiply by, you open another square root, 6, you open the bracket, 181974, you close the bracket, minus, open bracket, 1002, close bracket, squared. And then you navigate to the right again, and then you close two brackets, and then you get the answer. What is the answer? What do you get? Are you confused? What is the answer? 64.1164. If you are not calculating, you will have serious problems. And then you square. And then now you can say 57. I don't know if it's 57 or 59. 57.3. You open bracket, you just punch them on the calculator just like they are there, and then you give me the answer. What is the answer? What is your answer?
0.7987.
Is it the same as what we got before? It's this, we got this before. Do you see? So they are the same, meaning that our answers are very much correct. Do you understand? And then you are going to make an interpretation. Remember, I said you don't leave it like this. Coefficient of determination should always be multiplied by 100. And then you're going to multiply this by 100. You will get 79.5. So when you interpret, you will say 79.87% of the total variation in what was a dependent variable in the number of customers is explained by the variation in the area of advertising sign. That will be your interpretation. It's the definition of the coefficient of determination, because the definition says the coefficient of determination alludes to a portion of the total variation in the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the response variable, or the endogenous variable that is explained by the variation in the independent, or the predictor, or the exogenous variable. So you just go to that definition, and then where you see a portion or a percentage, you write that particular percentage which you got. And then where you see dependent variable, you write the name of the dependent variable. Where you see the independent variable, you do likewise. Then that will be your interpretation. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so you won't fail to interpret this one. The R, again, when you calculate the R, the small r, the coefficient of correlation, which is a small letter r, you remove the square. Meaning that even here, you will have your R, you will have your R, and then we remove the square. So you calculate those without a square. So at the end, you will get 0.8937. So we know the answer will be 0.8937, right? Then what is the interpretation? What do you think can be the interpretation of that answer? What is the answer? Remember, I said you interpret in terms of positive and negative relationship, and then you also tell us whether it's a weak positive or it's a weak negative, it's a moderate negative or a moderate positive, it's a strong positive or a strong negative. So what do you think the relationship is here?
Strong positive.
Strong positive.
Yes.
Is it?
Positive. Yes.
I beg to differ, because check, the value of R is between what? Oh, you are right. It's not between. You are very right. It's greater than 0.8. So, and the value of R is positive. Therefore, there's a positive relationship. You will say the there is a strong positive relationship or correlation between the area of advertising sign and the number of customers. And then they will also ask you to, you also have to elaborate more what you mean when you say there is a strong positive relationship. It means that when the value of, if the area of advertising sign increases, the number of customers will also increase. But if the area of advertising sign decreases, so does the number of customers. So what advice would you give to the manager of a particular store? Because they will ask you in the test to do this as well, in the exam. You are supposed to give that person advice based on what you got, based on the information or the answers you got. How would you recommend, or what would be the recommendations from you to the manager of a particular store, be it a retail or a wholesaler?
The person should increase the area of.
Good. The person should increase the area of advertising sign, because the more you increase the area of advertising sign, the more the number of customers. So that is the advice we can draw from that interpretation, or from that correlation of coefficient. There is a strong positive relationship between the area of advertising sign and the number of customers. Does it make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so we are done with regression analysis. So the questions will be approached the same way. So there are a lot of questions related to this, what we call, related to this chapter. So let me stop presenting here, and then I show you some of the questions. And so this is the one, the question we were working on. So the approach is the same. So I taught you this one. So you got 9 marks. So we spent 2 hours to solve. It wasn't 9 marks, because in the exam there will be a lot of marks. This one, it was allocated fewer marks, because like I said, this module is not yours. You see, it's text 012. So this one's, the students who are doing text 012 are doing a lot of things. So that is why they end up allocating fewer marks to some of these topics. So, but for you, there will be a lot of marks allocated to this kind of questions. And then even this one. So step 3, by using question 3, by using the 6 steps. Okay, I said this one is not for your level. It's for those who are doing step 012. For you, you don't need to do these complicated things. And then let's check another question. You will see that the procedure is the same, or the questions are even set the same, they will not change. Where is that document? STEB 2018. I don't have 2019 question papers for STEB. So those who are around the campus, you can download and share in the WhatsApp group chat. So this is your question paper that was set by Ms. Paho and Ms. Ramalata. So let's see the question. You see the multiple choice. These are some of the things you will see in the test tomorrow. So you use this in the exam. Why am I saying tomorrow? Because it's next week. So use the above table to answer this. You see, you are lucky because here they told you that this is the value of x, this is the value of y. So you just calculate. So you calculate B1. So if you don't know the formula for calculating B1, you will not get this answer correct. And then the value of B0, you also know. Regression line, you also know. You see, we did this. The expected value of y, we did this. Correlation coefficient, the relationship or correlation between mathematics and statistics, you will get this. So these are the things we were doing in this session. You see, you have all the marks. And then let me see. Okay. Let me check the last question paper. Okay, this is a copy of that one. This one, step 01, 2016. So it was taught by Maluleke, Mr. Maluleke. You see, yesterday we were looking at this example. So they always set the questions, they always take the questions from the slide they taught you in class. So here they did not tell you, you said you did not do chi-square with them, meaning that I'm not going to teach you that. So 4, 6, 2, and then 3, 4, lot of marks here. You see, the approach is the same. Plot a scatter diagram to portray the data taking score. So I'm not going to teach you this one because you are not going to draw anything. Your question papers is a multiple choice based question. And then derive a simple linear regression equation, 6 marks. You see, that side it was 5, but this side they're making it 6. So in the exam, they might even say it's 8 marks. So you see the giveaways. So you need to identify the dependent and independent variables here so that you can do what? You can get the correct answers. And then the approach to regression equation, to simple linear regression equation is the same as the one I taught you. Plot the line of best fit on the scatter diagram. I'm not going to teach you this one because you are not going to draw anything since you are writing multiple choice questions. Use the regression equation to predict the score that the panel of experts would award to a personal stereo priced 45 rands, meaning that the price is the independent variable. So they gave you the value of X, you are going to substitute it on your equation, which you got on question 2, Roman figure 2. Calculate the Pearson's correlation coefficient and comment on the findings. So these are some of the things we were doing. So we have covered everything about this chapter. So meaning that yours is just to go and revise all the questions related to regression analysis. They are very simple. Are we together? Will you find a difficulty to solve such problems? Are you still with me?
Yes, we
Okay.
won't.
Okay, thank you for that. We are almost done. So I just want to, this one, because it's theory, can I please not teach you this chapter? Because since it's theory and you are writing online, we know what you are going to do. So I'm not going to teach this one. Yes, we know what you are going to do. So let me not teach this one. But if you find a difficulty in answering any of the questions related to this chapter, please don't hesitate to text me and then I will respond to your questions. So I'm not going to teach this one, is theory. And then, like I said, we know what you are going to do. What else? Chapter number 2, let me see. This one is also very simple. The graphs you just need, I've been teaching you how to calculate relative frequency. I said relative frequency is given by the frequency divided by the n, which is the number of all frequencies. So meaning that if you have, say for instance, it's just that we don't have a data here. For you to calculate the relative frequency of these problems, checkers, the relative frequency of checkers, you take the observed frequency of checkers, which is 10, and then you divide by the value of n, which is 30. You will get the relative frequency. To get the the relative frequency for Pick n Pay, you take the observed frequency of Pick n Pay, which is what? Which is 17. You divide by the grand total, which is 30. SPAR 3/30. So those will be your relative frequencies. So for you to get the percentage frequencies, you take the relative frequency, you multiply by 100. So I don't think you'll fail this one as well. And then the graphs, with the graphs, you need to know the differences between those graphs and the variables, the dependent and the independent variables that are used in each of those graphs. So this one, can I please not teach this chapter as well? Because you will be referring. I don't think you will be asked to draw a graph when it comes to multiple choice. So I'm not going to teach this one as well. Okay, I will teach this tomorrow. So I want to release you now. The construction of a numeric, not tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow, because today is the 31st. So I am supposed to give you a break so that you can enjoy the crossover with your family and friends as you will be dancing to Makadzi's songs. You should forget a bit about the academics, but from the 1st of January, which is tomorrow, we will be continuing with our revision and we will start on this slide, the construction of a numeric frequency distribution or grouping data. So we are going to follow these steps together. And then, yes, then from there, we go to chapter number 3. So that will be part of the revision. Do you have questions? Do we have questions? Comments? Okay, in the absence of those beautiful and handsome ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a merciful and should I say procure nomenclaturous crossover. Enjoy it responsibly. Never forget your academics. Always think of practicing statistics. Whenever you light those candles, make sure you go through one of the statistical problems, solve it before you go for a celebration. And then you should make sure that you always adhere to the health protocols, because we hope to see you next year. And then we might be allowed back at the campus, and then those who have permits will have an opportunity to attend the contact lessons, but those who don't have permits will still be assisted on this platform. So make sure you also avoid going to overcrowded places, because COVID-19 is real. We are seeing people dying because of being reckless on a daily basis. So you should make sure that you adhere to those health protocols. You are academics, so we rely on you. Or maybe you should serve, you should be the examples, you should be exemplary in your various communities. You are at varsity, so once you travel almost every day to shopping complex without wearing a mask, without even adhering to the health protocols, so you are actually insulting your intelligence to people who are admiring you. So you should lead by example. You should show those people that indeed the University of Limpopo is one of the institutions that are assisting with the curbing or the dulling of the spread of this virus. So you need to be exemplary in your communities. Whenever you see a person not wearing a mask, it's your responsibility as an academic to remind that person, to show that you are educated and you are still in the process of nurturing your knowledge. So it's very important for that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's enjoy the New Year's Eve responsibly. Those who are drinking, those who are going to be drinking various liquids, make sure you drink them responsibly, because we don't want to hear a situation whereby someone is jailed, or a situation whereby someone is dead, and then we are supposed to come to your funeral and pay the last respect. We don't wish to see this, because my wish is to see my students graduating somewhere in future, and I will come into the hall and watch you as you proudly, or as you make me proud in wearing that graduation gown, because not many are able to get to that point. But through your endurance and perseverance, we will all get there if we act responsibly now towards curbing or mitigating the spread of the virus. So, is there anything you would like to say before I release you? It's okay. It's okay. Let's meet again tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Bye bye.
Thank you.